Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Nizzy's Sports Chat. I am your host, Nizzy, and in this video you guys are going to be breaking down the Raptors' loss last night to the Washington Wizards in overtime by a score of 132 to 129. Came oh so close to handing them the loss there and staying in the fight for the play-in spot, you guys, but unfortunately another fourth quarter collapse brings us down and is the death of us once again. Really tough game to watch, you guys. We started out great in the first half. I think we had an 8 or 9 point lead going into halftime. Kind of collapsed a little bit in the third quarter, but we were still hanging on there. You know, it was still a close game. Had the lead going into the fourth. Not by a lot, but we were still up a few points there, and then that's when it just started going downhill. That last 4 or 5 minutes in the fourth there, just couldn't get it going. We were just scrapping and fighting for our lives, just trying to tie the game. Freddie hit a nice clutch three-pointer with 1 second left in the fourth quarter. And then we just, fell behind right off the hop in overtime there, and we're chasing the entire overtime. So really, really tough to watch, you guys. I think we gave this one away big time. I think this was our game to win, hands down. I think we shouldn't have even went to overtime. We should have been able to close this out in the fourth quarter. I just think there was too many mistakes made. Once again, I think Nick Nurse's rotations just were a little bit off, man. Like, Stanley Johnson, again, this is just blowing my fucking mind, you guys. Stanley Johnson gets another 30. He had 30 minutes last game. He gets another 30 minutes tonight. 0 points. Played a lot in the fourth. Played a lot in OT. Gave us 0 points. None. 30 minutes of action. 0 points. Took, I think, 2 shots. So at least he ain't shooting lots because you don't want him to waste a bunch of shots to brick them all. But 0 points. And then in the last game he played, he had 5 points in 30 minutes. So in the last 2 games, Nick Nurse has chosen to play this guy 60 minutes in 2 games. And he's provided you 5 points in 60 minutes of action. I mean, it's just not good enough, man. Especially when you're going to have that guy in the starting lineup and you're going to give him starter minutes. Like, why in the hell is Jalen Harris not getting no minutes? I don't understand it. The dude pops off for 11 points in 13 minutes last game, and then you play him for 8 minutes tonight, and give Stanley Johnson 60 minutes over the last 2 games to score 5 points. Jalen Harris played fucking 13 minutes and had more points in those 13 minutes last game than Stanley Johnson's gotten in 60 minutes. And Jalen Harris is a rookie, man. Why did he not see more time? I just do not understand what Nick Nurse is doing. Why are we taking a look at Stanley Johnson? We know what he is. He's been on the team a couple years. He's what he is. That's what he is. He's never going to get much better than that. I mean, he's been in the league for like 3, 4, 5 years. It's not like the guy's in his second year in the league or something like that. He's had lots of time to improve and get better, and he really hasn't gotten any better than when we picked up Stanley Johnson a couple years ago. So I just really don't understand what Nick Nurse is thinking with those rotations. I just don't get it, man. I thought I know Malachi wasn't shooting great, but he can facilitate properly. It allows Fred and Pascal not to have to be the primary ball handler all the time. Because you notice, guys, in those fourth quarter and overtime stretches, like, for example here, Gary Trent had a phenomenal game yesterday. He went 8 of 16 from the field with 25 points in his first game back. Played phenomenal. And then we come into the fourth quarter, in the last stretch of the fourth quarter, and going all the way through overtime. I think Gary Trent shot the ball once. 1 fucking shot in fourth quarter in OT. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, Pascal and Fred took pretty well every single shot in fourth quarter and overtime. Like, I just don't understand it, man. They're not freaking Michael Jordans or LeBrons, or they're not, some guy, or Kyrie's or KD's or Kawhi's. They're not that caliber of player. They are all-star caliber players. They are not superstars. Like, Pascal and Fred, well, they're just not superstars. They're not good enough. They're great number 2 guys. They are not the bona fide number 1. Even Jason Tatum has way more clutchness to him than these guys got. I mean, they played well last night, but I just feel like if we wouldn't have relied on 2 guys to shoot the ball over, like, they knew what we were doing the entirety of the fourth quarter and overtime, they knew exactly what we're doing. Fred and Pascal are going to play a 2-man game, and those are going to be the only guys to shoot the ball. So cover Fred and Pascal, and then easy money, and they ain't going to score. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, Pascal had a nice game. I'm not going to harp on him too much because he was draining his shots still. But Fred was not good shooting. 7 to 25 from the field. Not a good night. You could have dialed that back a lot. Like, Gary Trent only had 16 shots. Why did he just completely get negated from the offense in the fourth quarter and overtime? It makes no sense to me, you guys. Especially if Fred was going off, man, and was banging in all of his shots. Sure, man, go ahead and keep shooting. You're not making them. Aside from that nice three-pointer that he had to tie it up at the end of regulation, he was not banging in shit last night. 7 of 25 is not a good shooting stroke. It's like in the low 30s, 31%, 32% shooting. Like, that's not a good shooting stroke last night, but he just kept on firing away. At least Pascal was 17 for 28. That's efficient night, and you needed him to take a little bit of the workload, but I just do not understand how Nick Nurse was not drawing up any plays for Gary Trent Jr. He was not getting the ball at all in the fourth quarter or overtime. He's probably the most clutch player we have on the floor, and didn't even get a chance to show it. I mean, it just blew my mind. And then Harris gets 8 minutes. 8 minutes after he gives you a freaking 11 points and 13 a couple nights ago. And then you barely play him tonight. And he also is efficient on the defensive end, so you choose to go with Stanley Johnson, who gives you 0 points in fucking 30 minutes last night. What are we doing, man? I just don't understand, and it's like the Raptors did everything in their power to lose the freaking game because we were winning there in the first half. We slowed her down in the third quarter. They came back into it. And then that fourth quarter, once again, is another fourth quarter collapse. We were able to just string on and hang on, which it never, as nice of a shot it was for Freddie, it never should have came to that. It never should have got to that. We should have hands down had this game without overtime. We just gave this one away with bad rotation changes and not playing the proper guys, in my opinion. When you got a guy who's in the starting lineup and gives you 30 minutes and can't put 1 point in, can't get one basket for you, that hurts. That hurts a lot, man. I mean, Malachi, I think, had like 13 minutes or 14 minutes. At least he was 2 for 7, so at least he had a couple. Harris had 2 points in 8 minutes. So, I mean, he had more production in those 8 minutes points-wise than Stanley Johnson did in 30. Maybe if you would have gave him 20 minutes, he probably could have put up 10 points for you. And then guess what? Game over. Raptors win in the fourth quarter. We wouldn't have even had to go to OT. So, very strange, very suspect. It almost feels like the Raptors were trying to lose on purpose. I mean, yeah, we were fighting tooth and nail, but it's like Nick Nurse is just like, I'm just going to throw these guys who have no chance of getting a basket. Like, Stanley Johnson's shooting stroke is terrible, you guys. I love his hustle. I love his effort on the defensive end. He does everything else right on the floor for the most part, other than he turns the ball over too much. And he just has a terrible shooting stroke. Like, he can't shoot. It's just not that good at all. And he's in his own head. You'll watch Stanley Johnson. Every time the guy misses a three-pointer, he's got his head down. He's shaking his head. He's so in his own head with his shot right now that it just didn't make sense for me to get. If you want to start him, fine. But if he's cold right off the bat, we got to get somebody else in there who can bang down buckets, man. I mean, it just blew me away, you guys. Great game from Pascal, too. 17 to 28, 44 points, 11 boards, and 7 assists. And it all goes to the wayside because we just couldn't hang on for the W. Pascal hucks up a brick of a 3 at the end there. Same thing at the end. I do not understand this either. Because, in my opinion, Gary Trent's the clutch guy on our team here. And I don't understand when there's 3.5 seconds left in OT and we're down by 3. Why did Gary Trent not get the ball? Why was he inbounding the ball? Why did you not have Fred inbound? Gary Trent should have caught the pass because you don't have enough time to drive to the rack for a foul or something. You knew you were going to have to huck up a 3 ball. Pascal's not a great guy in transition 3. So why would you not give it to Gary Trent and allow him to go down and try and take the 3? I think it probably would have went in, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, they wanted to just run Pascal and Freddie the entire fourth and the entire overtime. A huge stretch there in that overtime period, guys, where we missed, I think, 4 straight 3 balls, where we got every single offensive board. I think Gary Trent that was his only shot in overtime, is when he had one of those 4 3-pointers in OT. And he missed his, but Freddie had the other 3. And Fred missed 3 back-to-back-to-back 3-pointers. And I just didn't understand it, you guys. I didn't understand. It's like banging your head off a wall watching the same guy shoot over and over and over when he's not on a hot streak, when he's not rolling hot, but I'm just going to keep hucking it up anyway. Like, it just made no sense to me. It's like they didn't even try to design plays to try and get Gary Trent or those other guys open. Kem Birch had another great night too. 7-11 from the field, 17 points and 9 boards. Why did we stop running the pick and roll in the fourth quarter in OT? Why didn't we keep hitting the pick and roll and having that guy drive to the rack or trying to get him more involved? Like, it's just, we go into this stagnant iso ball or a two-man game where Pascal and Fred only pass to each other when it comes down to crunch time moments. And that's all fine and dandy if they're hitting their shots, but most of the time they're not, because Fred and Pascal are just not the super clutch guys. They can go get you buckets, they can score lots, but when it comes down to, I need this bucket now or we're going to lose the game, it just doesn't happen. Like, even though Freddie had that nice clutch basket at the end of the fourth there, first of all, should have never even gotten to that point because we should have been closing it out before then. So we shouldn't have even had to make that basket to get into overtime. But nonetheless, nice shot by Fred. I ain't going to discredit his shot-making ability on that one. But then you go up in the fourth quarter and don't make anything. You just, or in overtime, you just go out and brick everything. And then you get 3 shots from 3 in OT and miss them all. And we don't get Gary Trent the ball at all. And we don't get anyone on the floor other than Fred and Pascal who are shooting. I mean, it just... it was frustrating as a Raptors fan, you guys. I feel like we did everything in our power to lose instead of doing everything in our power to win. I mean, no hatred to Pascal there. Pascal was the only guy who was going off last night. Even though Fred had 22 points, I don't call that a great game when you shoot 7 of 25. I mean, 25 shots is too many if you ain't banging them in. And he knew he wasn't that hot all night, right? So I would have liked to see him take probably 10 less shots, to be honest with you. Gary Trent deserved more shots. Harris deserved more minutes on the floor. Kem Birch deserved more shots. And that's the biggest issue, you guys. When you get stagnant and you only got 1 or 2 guys shooting, if they're not superstars like KD and Kyrie or LeBron and AD or, guys like that, they're not going to be able to give you 30 a night and shoot super efficient 55-60% from the field every night. Pascal's been on a nice tear these last few games. He's been very efficient, playing very well. But Fred's always been that kind of, one game he'll shoot 40 or 50%, then he's down to like 30%, then he'll have another game where he shoots 50% from the field, then he'll have another game he shoots like 33%. So he's never been super consistent. It's almost like Kyle Lowry that way. Kyle Lowry is just that ultimate fighter where he'll go and bang in, a bunch of baskets and have this outstanding shooting night where he'll shoot like 65% from the field. But then he might have a game just like Fred the very next game where he goes 5 of 20 or something, right? So we don't have that consistent clutch scorer who just bangs in buckets at a consistent clip every single night. Like, we're just running with all-stars, right? We don't have a superstar. So the fact that we try and act like our all-stars are superstars in the clutch, it doesn't work, and you're seeing that it doesn't work. Look at this year. How many clutch times have we lost? There's probably, 5-6 games this year I can think of where we lost on a last-second shot because we don't have a clutch guy to make the shot. Like Pascal, including the one last night, which I'm not going to rag on him. The dude had 44. But he bricked up that 3 at the end. Mainly because I just think they should have gave the ball to Gary Trent Jr. But nonetheless, Pascal bricked it up. So I think that puts him at like 0 for 6 or 0 for 7 on the season with last second shots to either tie or take the lead. So just atrocious in the clutch this year. It's been a rough year for the Raptors, man. This is pretty well our season right there. I think we're 4.5 or 4 games back now. The Wizards with 5 games left. There's basically no chance now, you guys. The Wizards got to lose every single game. They have a way easier schedule coming up than we do. We still got some tough teams coming up. We got Dallas coming up, Clippers. So I think that's our season, you guys. Unfortunately, 132-129 for the Wizards in OT. Heartbreaker of a loss for the Raptors. A lot of factors involved here on why we lost, but let me know what you guys think in the comments section anyways, why you thought we lost the game or how maybe you thought Nick Nurse handled the rotations going into later in the fourth quarter as well as in overtime. But anyways, guys, this is Nizzy with Nizzy Sports Chat signing off, and thank you guys for watching. Peace.